Hi, I'm Bantler, and welcome to my series on AI strategy, transformation, and adoption. Today, I'm going to be talking about one of the questions I get quite a lot from people who I know, not even just in the workplace, but honestly, just like friends, which is I'm not technical. I know nothing about technology. I'm an analog person. How do I even start with AI? It's a pretty good question because you don't need to be technical to understand it. You don't need to code. You don't really need to understand machine learning. You just need to be curious and willing to experiment and also not hold yourself back with ideas that you have told yourself that you're too old to learn or you're useless at technology, etc. It is never too late to learn. And I would put aside some of those limiting beliefs as the very first thing. And after you've done that, step number one, get on all the tools. I mean, literally all of them. ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Copilot, whatever else you need, and whatever else has been launched by the time you watch this. You can sign up for the free tiers. You don't need the paid tiers yet, assuming that you're going to be very strategic and careful about the information you put it in there. I personally thought that $20 a month wasn't that much to spend on a couple of tools for 3 months. And so that was something that I felt my business could invest in. I got them all on a slightly better tier because then I felt like I could really understand what the strengths and weaknesses are. I often asked the tools to perform the same task, but they all gave a different take on it, given that some of them are better at writing, some of them are better at analysis, some are better at code, some are better at following complex instructions over multiple steps. I find, for example, the Gemini and Notebook LLM are not super good at analysis and complex instructions, but are very good at summary and being able to research and find credible sources for certain information. Claude, especially these days, is fantastic at writing and fantastic at coding. And that means that I also have a really smart editor that I can use because I usually use AI more as an editing tool than I do as a writing tool. Copilot, I'm not sure what it is good at, but I'm told it's very good at summarizing things as well. Step number two, set a set of meta instructions, create a project, find some way of being able to apply the same rules and instructions to all conversations. Every AI tool now probably has some form of this project functionality where you can tell the AI your role, your industries, your preferences, what you don't want. So I work in financial services. I need to use UK English. Don't use bullet points unless I ask for them. Keep things concise. My instructions to my AIs also include like, tell me the truth. I don't need you to protect or baby me. I'm interested in the right answer, not my ego. Avoid all AI-isms. Don't be a jerk. Like, I know that my style is blunt and it is direct, but it's not rude and it's always done with good intention. You're making me sound incredibly pretentious and condescending if you reinterpret what I'm saying in a way that you think makes sense. So instead, keep as much of my word choice, diction, phrasing, framing as possible. Do not add any of your own stories, anecdotes, analogies. Do not fabricate or make up anything. Do not remove any of the core ideas. Literally, this is all in a 2-page document that I feed to every major tool that I have so that it understands these are my preferences and they remain the same, regardless of whether I'm asking you to summarize a meeting that I just had or to generate a podcast about this particular topic. I needed to have the same consistency. I also create different projects, which are kind of like having different folders for different areas of my work. So some projects will be about one specific book. And so everything I do in that will be in that context. And the AI will continue to understand that if I ask about assassination attempts, it will understand that I mean that not because I suddenly became an historian. It probably relates to some of the work that I'm doing on a sci-fi book that's set in space. It understands that because it's all in the same project or folder. One I might have for some of my client work when I need to be able to quickly summarize some of the workshops that I've done for them. One could be about your team strategy or your organizational strategy. Again, don't put anything confidential or competitively sensitive in there. You can then upload relevant documents documents to each one of those projects so that you can help your AI be much smarter about in your specific context, given the more information that you give it. The third thing I would say is if you are non-technical and trying to get to grips with AI, is start with low risk tasks. Don't ask AI to write your board paper as the first thing. Like, ask it to summarize an external report that you've already read. Compare the summary that each one of those tools gives you. Think about what you thought was good or bad. Then add into your instructions feedback that'll make it better and avoid the mistakes it made, and also reinforcement for the good and what you wanted to do. Other good starter tasks: draft a first version of an email that you were going to write anyway, brainstorm the agenda for a meeting, come up with product name ideas, put key points down for a really long document, create meeting notes or a presentation after an internal team building exercise. Those things are super low stakes, and you can check the output against your own judgment. The next thing I would say is compare the outputs across tools very specifically and ask the AI tools to check each other's work. And so one of my favorite things to do is to take the output of Gemini when I've asked it a particular question, paste it into Claude and say, what's wrong with this? What's missing? How would you improve it? It does give a surprisingly honest critique, and often like not the hot take you would imagine. So obviously it said this, but it is very specific on areas where it thinks Gemini has missed the mark or has not considered certain characteristics of a topic, etc. If I want to verify something factual that has been put out by Claude, I might Google it, but I also might just put it into Gemini and say, please, can you verify that there are source materials to support all of the points made in this particular article? When you are asking the tools to do their own quality control, it's not perfect, but it does mean that you get a better first draft and you get a better sense of what could be wrong with some out of the output when you have the tools testing each other. Next one, find your top time wasters and then get AI to help you with those. So once you have gotten the low stakes things out of the way, think about things that are super repetitive or not a good use of your time, or just things that you really hate and you wish you couldn't do. So status reports, meeting notes, first draft of documents, data formatting, research summaries, whatever yours are, those are your ideal AI candidates. So start using your AI tools to address those before anything else, right? You will get to the point where you feel confident enough and competent enough that you can start to use it for higher value tasks. And then the last piece of advice that I have for people who are trying to learn how to do this is get AI to help you understand this, right? So if you don't quite know what use cases Claude would be best for, tell it what your job is, give it your JD, and ask it what tasks that you do on a day-to-day basis it believes would be low stakes, low risk, and it would be helpful for you to know, right? Because the AI is actually very good at being able to understand how to get something done. You just need to tell it what you want done. And that doesn't mean giving it a step by step. What it does mean, however, is that you have to be very clear on the output you want. Tell it the format you want, the length that you want, number of words, who the intended audience is, what the tone should be. Feed it the last version of a report that you want to recreate. All of that will help it come up with the best way to help you so that you don't necessarily need to know all the answers about how all the tools work. You can even just ask it for options, like what 3 ways would you do this in the future, right? And then pick the one which makes the most sense for you. So the learning curve for non-technical people when it comes to AI is not really about the tech part of it. It's understanding how they work, what's good at this, what's bad at that, where your time is going to be best spent doing things that only a human can do versus things that you could outsource to your AI. It does not require you to have a degree or an online course or a free Google whatnot. And it certainly doesn't require you taking all the hot takes on the internet, some of mine included. What it does require, though, is practice and a commitment to learning quickly, failing a bit, fumbling for a while, but eventually the payoff will be a much better understanding of how these tools work for you. Thanks so much. See you next time.